Okay, so today we are really diving into AGI,
Right.
artificial general intelligence, and,
Yeah.
not the like
Right.
Terminator Skynet version, but like
The real deal.
the real deal.
Yeah.
So to help us unpack this, we're going to be looking at Leopold Aschenbrenner's Situational Awareness, the decade ahead.
Right.
He's a former OpenAI insider, and
Yeah.
he's making some really interesting predictions about how this is all going to play out.
Yeah, his timeline is definitely eye-opening.
Yeah.
I mean, we're going from like, can AI write a decent email to like,
Right.
could it be running countries?
In our lifetime.
Yeah, like within our lifetime.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is he says that AGI could be here this decade,
Which is,
a lot sooner than a lot of people are thinking.
yeah, a lot of people are thinking like 20 years, 30 years, 50
Yeah.
years. He's saying no, much sooner.
Yeah, and the way he gets there is by using this method that he calls counting the OMs.
Right.
And that's orders of magnitude, and he's looking at how quickly computing power is increasing,
Right.
how efficient algorithms are becoming.
How much better they are at using that power.
Exactly. And then also this idea of like unhobbling AI.
Yeah.
So what exactly does he mean by that?
So unhobbling, I mean, it sounds kind of ominous.
It does sound a little ominous.
Like we're unleashing something.
Right.
But it's more like, think about AI as a student.
Okay.
And, a few years back we had GPT-2,
Right.
which, could barely string a sentence together. It was like a kid just learning their ABCs.
Okay.
And then GPT-3 comes along, it's a little bit better. And then GPT-4.
Right.
Now we're talking,
It's like
it can ace high school exams, write code.
that same kid is now in high school.
Exactly. It's like they went to high school and suddenly they are graduating.
Right.
And he's saying that this trend is going to continue.
Okay.
And by 2027, we could see another GPT-2 to GPT-4 level jump.
Wow.
So that's like this high school kid going from freshman year to PhD in just a few years.
That is incredibly fast.
Yeah.
And this time it's not just going to be about,
Right.
better chatbots or
Right.
more interesting.
This is about AI that can actually do real work.
Okay.
Like Aschenbrenner says, they'll be able to learn new tasks really quickly. They can adapt to different situations.
They're like mega.
highly skilled
Okay.
remote workers. But
Better.
like super efficient, always learning, never need a break.
Okay, so this is a big deal.
Yeah, this is a big deal.
So how is this all happening? What's driving this really rapid evolution?
So it's a couple things coming together.
Yeah.
Aschenbrenner talks about the exponential growth in computing power.
Right.
We're talking about machines today that are millions of times more powerful than they were a decade ago.
Yeah. It's hard to even fathom.
It's mind-blowing. And then on top of that, the algorithms themselves are getting much more efficient.
Okay.
So they're able to learn from data much more effectively.
So it's like we're giving AI these bigger brains and then also these better learning tools.
That's a great way to put it, yeah.
Okay.
But it goes even deeper than that. We have to talk about how these models are actually trained. Because imagine you could feed an AI the entire internet, like
Right.
all the information,
All the cat videos, all the Wikipedia articles.
all of it.
Okay.
And that's essentially what we're doing.
Wow.
With these large language models, they're ingesting this massive amount of data.
Okay.
And they're learning to predict, okay, what comes next? What's the next word in this sentence? What's the next sentence in this paragraph? What's the next idea in this article?
So it's kind of like they're learning by osmosis, just absorbing all this information and figuring out the patterns.
It is kind of like that, but it's way more complex than just soaking it all in.
Okay.
They're not just memorizing facts.
Yeah.
They're building up this really intricate understanding of how the world works, how things relate to each other.
So they're developing like a sense of context.
Context, nuance, even abstract concepts, which is kind of wild to think about.
Yeah, that is pretty wild.
But the way they learn right now is still pretty clunky.
Okay.
Remember that analogy Aschenbrenner uses about the math textbook?
Yeah, he was saying the AI is kind of like flipping through that textbook at warp speed,
Exactly.
where a human would slow down, think about the concepts, try to apply them.
Right.
AI is not quite there yet.
Not yet. It's more brute force right now,
Okay.
but there's a huge potential for them to become much more efficient learners.
Okay.
Aschenbrenner believes that with the right research, we could see AI squeeze way more knowledge out of way less data.
That would be incredible because, I mean, even with the amount of information that's online, there's still limits.
Right.
So if they could start learning more like we do, like by experimenting and testing things out,
Yeah.
that would be a game changer.
That's really the key to unlocking what he calls an intelligence explosion.
Intelligence explosion. Okay, now we're talking. What is that?
So imagine AI that is not just as smart as like a human researcher, but can also learn and work at speeds we can barely fathom.
Okay.
That's the tipping point.
Okay.
AI starts designing even smarter AI, leading to this runaway cycle of self-improvement.
So it's like a snowball effect, but for intelligence.
Exactly. Things could escalate really quickly.
Okay, and this is where things start to get a little bit, I don't know,
It's a
concerning.
little unnerving.
Yeah, a little unnerving.
Because Aschenbrenner's point is whoever controls that superintelligence will have an advantage like we've never seen before.
And we're not just talking about
Real.
like the next smartphone or something.
This is not about having the latest iPhone. It's
Yeah.
about economic domination, military might that would make today's armies look like they're using sticks and stones.
Wow.
They could even control information on a global scale,
Okay.
shaping narratives, influencing entire populations.
So now this is feeling less like a tech upgrade and more like a sci-fi thriller.
Yeah. And this is why Aschenbrenner believes that a U.S. government-led AGI project is basically inevitable.
He actually calls it the project, like
A project, yeah.
with the capital T, capital P.
With the capital letters.
Yeah.
Because his argument is that no private company
Yeah.
can handle the responsibility or even the sheer magnitude of what we're talking about.
Right, and it makes you wonder if it's going to be that powerful.
Yeah.
Shouldn't there be some ground rules, some safeguards?
Yeah.
Like who gets to decide how this technology is used?
That's the million-dollar question.
Yeah.
And it's something that Aschenbrenner really digs into in this report.
Okay.
And he starts by talking about security,
Oh,
which frankly is kind of terrifying right now.
in what sense?
So the most important stuff about these AI systems, the code, the training data, even like the weights that make the AI work, it's all shockingly vulnerable right now.
Wait, are you saying that someone could just steal the secrets to AI? Like who are we talking about here?
He's talking about foreign governments, hackers, anyone that wants to gain an edge in this new world.
Okay.
And he says it's almost a certainty that major AGI breakthroughs will be stolen
Wow.
within the next year or two, unless we see some really drastic changes.
So we are talking national security
Oh, yeah.
threat level
It's a big deal.
of serious.
Big leagues.
Okay, so it's not just about keeping it out of the wrong hands, though, right?
Right.
We have to talk about the ethics of AI,
Yeah.
making sure that
Yeah.
it's aligned
Yeah.
with human values,
Exactly.
which is a whole other
It's a whole other can of worms.
can of worms, exactly.
And that's where the concept of super alignment comes
Super alignment. Okay, lay that on me.
Okay, so basically it's about making sure that we can not only control these crazy powerful AI systems,
Right.
but that they're also working towards goals that benefit humanity.
Okay.
So not just doing what we tell them to do,
Right.
but actually understanding why
Right.
and making choices that are truly aligned with our best interests, which is a much
So not just teaching them to follow orders, but to actually understand the bigger picture.
the big picture, the human element.
Right. The why behind it.
Yeah. And Aschenbrenner argues that this isn't just a technical problem,
Right.
it's a philosophical one.
Of course it is.
It's going to take the best minds in AI, ethics, philosophy,
Wow.
everyone working together to even have a shot at getting this right.
So we've got this potential intelligence explosion.
Yes.
We've got this global race for AI dominance.
Yes.
And this massive question of how do we control
Yeah.
a technology that might be smarter than us?
It's a lot.
It's a lot. It's kind of a lot to process.
It is.
Maybe we should dig into what Aschenbrenner sees as the way forward.
Okay.
Because he does talk about the project,
He does.
this idea of a government-led initiative to really develop and control AGI.
Right. He lays out.
So what's the gist there?
So he's not talking about some shadowy government program
Yeah.
hidden away in a bunker somewhere.
Okay.
He's talking about concentrating resources, strict security measures, a clear chain of command,
Okay.
because he believes that a project of this magnitude,
Right.
with stakes this high, it needs that level of focus and oversight.
So he's saying that private companies, even with all of their resources,
It's not enough.
just aren't cut out for this.
He doesn't think so.
Wow.
He draws this comparison to the Manhattan Project,
Oh, wow.
the race to build the atomic bomb.
Okay.
And he argues that AGI is arguably more significant,
Wow.
with the potential to reshape the geopolitical landscape.
Yeah. It's like that old saying, with great power
Comes great responsibility.
comes great responsibility.
And in this case, maybe even the most powerful tech companies in the world, they just aren't equipped for that responsibility.
That's a really interesting point.
Yeah.
So who does he see leading the charge with this?
So he doesn't get into the